Hi everyone, this is MegaPhilX here once again, and today is gonna be something special. I'm gonna talk about Mega Man 11. Yes, I have finally beaten the game. I finished the story mode at least once, and I can now have a good idea of, what the game's all about. And a lot of you guys wanted me to tell you what I think of the game, so I'm gonna try to keep it short and sweet. So here's the short version. It's awesome. So if you're a fan of Mega Man, like, what are you waiting for? Just go get it now. It's great. It has some flaws, but I'm gonna talk about them. I'm gonna talk about first the good stuff. The Robot Masters, they're all great. There's no real bad design in them. The good thing is that they all have great personality. And they're not annoying about it. Their voices are great. And what I mean by they're not annoying about it is that they don't like talk too much, like they don't keep calling their attacks all the time and to the point where it gets annoying. So I have actually a hard time picking a favorite amongst the Robot Masters. For me, it's either Fuse Man or Blast Man. The ones that I don't like as much is maybe Impact Man. He's not as, I've never been really a big fan of the construction type Robot Masters. But yeah, Acid Man, Block Man, Bounce Man, Tundra Man is actually pretty cool. He's the ice skating, flamboyant guy. He's cool. No pun intended. But yeah, so yeah, the Robot Masters, good stuff. The thing about them is that they don't have any kind of like weird ideas like Centaur Man or Yamato Man or stuff like that. They're really like basic stuff. You don't really question like what are their weaknesses. It makes sense, and I think it's a good idea to have done that with them. Is that for newcomers, they will understand really easily what the game is all about. They will figure out the weaknesses, and it will be a good introduction to Mega Man for them. As far as the stages go, the level designs are great. They make good use of all the enemy types. Most of the enemies are, first of all, they're adorable. They're really cute and interesting, and the thing is that there's a lot of them that are not necessarily reused, but there's nothing like groundbreaking about most of them. But the way they are like animated and the way they look, it's just great. The game has a very charming vibe to it, and there's not that many enemies per stage, but they're reused well. And another thing about the stages is that they don't have too many gimmicks to them. They have a couple of mechanics and they reuse them. Lots of jumping and shooting, which is what you want in a Mega Man game. You don't want to have too many stages that are like completely different than everything else. They don't have like a Tengu Man type of stage where it's just a shmup, You have like all of the stages are standard Mega Man stuff, and that's what we've always, liked about this series. The stages are long, but they have 2 checkpoints mid-stage instead of just one like before. So yeah, the stages are long, but they have one more checkpoint. This is great, I think, because, more Mega Man, more gameplay, longer stages makes sense, and it's not too frustrating because there's more checkpoints. So this is the good stuff about the stages. Now the new thing with Mega Man 11 is the gear system. You've all pretty much heard about it. You have the power gear and the speed gear. Now I'm gonna assume that you already know a lot about Mega Man. I'm not gonna explain everything, but basically the right bumper button triggers the speed gear, which slows down everything except you, and the left bumper triggers the power gear, which makes your buster more powerful, and even your special weapons are more powerful. Kind of like X charges his weapon. The good thing about this is that it opens up so many different ways to play the game and so that you have all kinds of play style for all kinds of players, and there's a lot of replayability with the game. There's even if you're almost dead, you can trigger both gears at the same time and have like a super ultra powerful charge shot, and it's great. The gear system, like the game doesn't force you to use it, like you don't absolutely have to use it, but it's much more difficult if you don't use it. So you have that element of challenge if you choose not to use it, which is what I did in my first playthrough. Another thing about the game is that the shop has much more stuff in it, and it gives you like much more options. It's like the gear system, you can buy all kinds of things to make your gameplay experience better, or to customize the way you play. As you play through the game, more items unlock in the shop, and it gives a lot of options for new people. Speaking of which, there's newcomer difficulty and casual difficulty. They make it so the enemies are easier to kill, you have infinite lives. Basically, newcomer difficulty. My 4-year-old daughter could play the game and maybe beat a stage in newcomer mode. So the options there, if you're not familiar with the series, there you go. Another good thing is that you have the gallery mode and the challenge mode. Challenge mode is like your standard stuff, like there's an endless attack, an endurance attack, like in Game Unlimited, where you play all the stages one after the other. I haven't played much of this mode, but you know, I'm excited just because there's more stuff to do. The gallery mode is a great thing about the game. Is, you know, I love that games allow you to, you know, just look at the lore and read stuff about the game. So there's these you see descriptions of all the enemies, all the robot masters. You even see their animations. You can listen to their voice clips. I like when the game like puts that kind of detail in there, just so that I can just, even if I don't feel like playing the game itself, I can just look at it, read about it. It's like, I'm a huge collector of strategy guides, so you can understand why I like this stuff. Now, I think I've covered pretty much everything good about the game. I didn't talk about the story. The story is cool, but you know, it's not the main reason why you play the game. It's not, you know. So now about the problems the game has, sorry. And there's not a lot of problems. And the problems I have with the game, they don't break the experience. I'm gonna talk about two of the most damaging problems the game has. Here we go. The first one, some inputs will be some inputs that you know, when you press the buttons, will be ignored sometimes. If you are running in one direction and you quickly switch to the other direction, if you jump while turning around, sometimes you just won't jump. And it did kill me a couple times during some of the more intense fights. I like to like slide and turn around and quickly shoot the other way, or you know, when you get to dodging a lot of the more difficult stuff, and you try to just turn around and shoot, or turn around and jump. I mean, sorry, when you shoot, I think it's fine, but when you jump, like if you try to jump as you turn around, as you can see in the footage I'm showing here, you sometimes don't jump. Here in the footage I'm showing to you, every time I turn around to the left, I press the jump button, and yeah, as you can see, sometimes Mega Man doesn't jump. That's a pretty big problem, and I'm surprised they didn't fix that, because the game does require you to do a lot of crazy maneuvers. The other problem the game has is that, oh, by the way, spoiler alert, it's not a big thing, but you know, oh, spoiler, there's a Wily Castle, right? So, like, stage 3 is a short stage, the rematches, and no boss. And stage 4 is a short stage and Whitey. Like there's no fifth stage, there's no secret stage, there's no third stage boss. There's like the first two stages are awesome, and they're long, just like the Robot Master stages, and they have a boss. Then the third stage is short, and the fourth is short as well. And the third doesn't even have a boss; it just has like the rematches. And so this game needs a third Wily stage, the full Wily stage with an original boss. Speaking of which, the first Wily boss, spoiler alert, it's the Yellow Devil. And personally, I'm sick and tired of them reusing the Yellow Devil or any kind of devil boss. I'm just so sick of that. It's like you have all of this new stuff that you do, all of these neat little gimmicks, neat little gameplay things, and the only thing you can come up with is to reuse the Yellow Devil. Like, I just don't get it. But anyway, it has a spin to it, but you know, I wish they would have done like an original boss. And you know, that's it. Yes, once you get past the second Wily stage, the game is over pretty quickly. But what is there is great. It feels like they ran out of time or budget or something, and then they had to just quickly wrap it up. But even if that did happen, what they focused on, what we have here, everything they delivered is spot on. Like, except the two things I mentioned, like the inputs being eaten sometime and the lack of a proper, you know, third Wily stage is these are the main problems I have with the game, really. Hey, I magically changed shirt. Just a couple more details I forgot to mention. I did try the game's hard mode, which is called superhero mode, and what I like about it is that they didn't add so many new enemies around the stages like they did in Mega Man 9. Instead, some enemies take more damage, and the bosses have new attack patterns, and it's really more difficult because also enemies don't drop energy during the stage, and there are no collectibles in the stages. So when you get to the boss, you're pretty exhausted. You get lots of bolts, so you can buy things and eventually make it through. The boss patterns are different, so I've had a lot more trouble with the one stage I was familiar with, like Blockman. I couldn't beat the boss. So this is gonna be interesting. Also about the extra challenges mode, there's a lot of new challenges that are not in the other Mega Man games. Like, for example, you have balloon mode, where you just have to pop blue balloons and not touch the red balloons, and you go through all the stages in the game and they have no enemies, they just have balloons placed all over the place, and you have to do it as fast as possible while avoiding the red balloons. There's also little funny things like pushing a tank oven as far as possible before the timer runs out. There's no base or Proto Man in the game. Like, they don't appear at all in the story, and yeah, maybe for some people it's gonna be a bad point, but actually I'm kind of glad they didn't put them in there. I don't know, I'm glad they just stuck to the basics. Just Mega Man, Dr. Wily, and just the basic cast. Nothing else. Personally, I don't really like Proto Man or Bass. They're okay, but they're not like absolutely necessary for me. I'm okay that they focused on the basic stuff. Now I want to talk about the soundtrack a little bit. I want to talk about my favorites. The soundtrack, in my opinion, is great. I've been listening to a lot of the soundtrack in the last few days. So let's talk about my favorite songs. First, my absolute favorite is Tundra Man's stage. I like how it starts out epic, then it gets like more like whimsical with the snow, quiet, and then it becomes epic again, and you know, it's a little bit all over the place. There's all kinds of style within that song. I like it. Another song I like is Impact Man's stage, and at first I don't like the Robot Master in particular, but what I like about this song is that it starts out as this tough guy, kind of Gutsman style. It sounds as a very like tough guy sounding soundtrack. Then it turns a little bit like, oh, he's cute in the end. Then it kicks off a more epic melody, and then it loops. I like it how it goes to different moods. Another one I like is Blast Man's theme, just because it's just fast paced. It's just like go go go, everything's exploding around you, and I just like it's pretty basic, but it sounds great and it gets you going through the stage. Another one I want to mention that usually this kind of stage in the other Mega Man games I don't really like. It's Bounce Man's theme. Usually in the other Mega Man games, when you have a happy stage like Spring Man or Clown Man, I don't really like them. I mean, the stages are fun, they're okay, but the music has never really hooked me. When I listen to them on the soundtrack, I just usually skip them or just prefer to listen to the other one after that. But Bounce Man, that song just makes me happy. I love that stage. For some reason, this song is it makes me smile. It's and it's my daughter's favorite song too. So I don't know, it gets me in a good mood. I like to listen to it. It fits the stage and the boss perfectly. Mwah. A couple of other ones I like is the stage select song of this game is probably my favorite stage select in all the games. I like that it's a longer loop, so because you spend more time in the stage select song, like saving or loading or setting up your equipment, looking at your sub menu. Stage select is awesome. Another one that, of course, everyone likes it. It's the Whitey theme. What's a little bit of a bummer, there's only one Whitey song in the entire Whitey Castle, but it sounds amazing. It's like, I have died so many times in Whitey 1 and 2 and against final boss, and every time I heard the song again, I just like, let's go, let's kick some ass. That song, like, I've heard it like 100 times and I'm still not tired of it. It's great. Yeah, it's a little bit of a bummer that it's the only song in all the Whitey stages, but you know, I can forgive it because it kicks a lot of ass. Something I want to add about the soundtrack is, you know, people say that Mega Man 11 is playing it safe, it's not trying anything super different, but about the soundtrack, I just want to point out that it's all new stuff. Like, it's not like Mega Man 9, which was like the ultimate safe bet, in my opinion. And especially the music in Mega Man 9 was a lot of reused stuff from Mega Man 2. But here it's, and you know, except for the stage intro and the victory fanfare, everything else is completely new, and it's awesome. So that's what I wanted to have, like new stuff. I don't want to have too much reused stuff. So that's one of the reasons why I think the soundtrack is great. So yeah, that's it. I wanted to talk a little bit about the soundtrack and give my opinion on the game. I hope you like the game. Let me know in the comments if you agree or disagree with my opinion. I'm looking forward to reading what you have to say, and hope you've enjoyed this little review. Well, it's not a review, but it's thoughts on Mega Man 11. I hope you enjoyed the video, and see you next time. Bye.
I'm trusting you, Mega Man. Oh, I almost forgot something very important. I've just finished giving Rush a good tune-up. He's all ready to head out with you. Rush! Rush, help Mega Man and keep him safe. Be a good boy now.
We've got this, Rush. Okay, let's go!